Okay, so Paxton's moving on. He's working with, he wants the torch cut. So the very first thing Paxton did is he came over here. Again, he marked his, from this cut that he had last time, he marked 3 inches. And then because if you look at the bottom of this, from this outside edge to that center where it's actually cutting was 1/8 of an inch. So Paxton clamped this piece of angle iron 1/8 of an inch off of his line, and it's sitting here ready to go. This uses heat, so we don't, it's not electrical like that plasma was, so he doesn't have to have a clamp of ground, okay? The next thing Paxton's gonna do is he's gotta go set up this torch. So we're gonna come over here. Here's our setup. The first thing you have to do, and this one's already on. Why don't we just bleed this off? Oops, that is all the way out. We're just gonna shut everything off and then bleed, whoops. Shut it all off. We're gonna bleed all the air out of these and we should be good. Okay, so I know that nothing is on. Everything's off. Okay, and I'm gonna start from scratch. So the very first thing I do, this big tank is oxygen, the small tank is acetylene. And on this side, you can follow the lines, they're different colors. Green is oxygen. I think about it like you breathe air, air's good, oxygen, green. And then acetylene is like fire, scary, it's the red one, okay? On the oxygen side, you have this valve. You also have this valve on the torch. So what I do is I open this valve all the way open. Don't just crack it a little bit. Go all the way open until it's like snug. Like right there, it's snug. If I keep going, you can go more, but once this is snug, it's open far enough. Then I'm gonna come to the back side of this, and you can see this red lever. We'll flip it up. That turns on this regulator. Then we come, turns on the valve. Then we come to this regulator. And this regulator on oxyacetylene, I don't know where there's usually some instructions that are laying in here. But you're gonna set this to 25. So, and it's PSI. So if you look, I'll spin this in. You can see the PSI. 50 is there.
2 bar.
So from 0 to 50, you're gonna go kind of in the halfway. So yeah, if you're looking on here, 2 bar is perfect. Then you're gonna come down to acetylene. On acetylene, this valve, you do not open this all the way. This one is a turn and a half. So it's tight right now. I'm gonna loosen it so that it's on. Then I'm gonna go 1.5. And that's on, ready to go. The reason why is if something crazy happens, if you have it cracked all the way open and you want to come shut this off, you have to turn off. Whereas if it's only a turn and a half, it's pretty quick to get it off. And then this one, we're gonna set to 5 on the PSI. So we'll spin this in right there, 5. Okay? So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna double check that our numbers stay the same when this valve is open. So I'm gonna come to oxygen, and I'm gonna open up the last oxygen valve. So it is running right now, there's air coming out. If I put it on the mic, you can hear it, okay? And it stayed at about 2, so that's good. So we'll shut it off. And again, we're gonna check acetylene. We're gonna open acetylene on the torch. So I'm gonna crack open acetylene, and it dropped a little bit, so we'll give it a little more. And then we'll shut it off, okay? So now our torch, all of our pressures are set. Now we're gonna go back over to this side once we grab a striker. So this is our striker. Striker works by putting pressure down and getting a spark. That's what lights this torch, okay? So we're gonna come over here. We're underneath this hood. So this hood here will suck the fumes out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna acetylene, remember red, I'm gonna open it just a tiny little bit, okay? And then I'm gonna strike it. So right there, see all this soot? You don't want soot. So you're gonna open this valve, open, until you get rid of most of that soot. and you have this nice kind of feathery looking torch. Okay? Next thing you're gonna do is, this oxygen's already open, so you're gonna go to this one, and you're gonna turn this on. And what you're gonna do is, if you come in, you're gonna go to somewhere in there, okay? For cutting, when you start cutting, those little bright blue flames, that's what does the cutting. So when you squeeze, I'm gonna squeeze this handle. So if you zoom out, this handle here, okay, this handle, when you squeeze it, you want these initial flames right here to stay the same size, just get brighter. You can't really see it in the video. That's okay. Okay? And right now I would be ready to cut. So I would come over here, I'd preheat my plate a little bit by running the torch back and forth. And then I'm gonna get in a really comfy stance. So I'm gonna switch places with Paxton. He's gonna go around. What I would do is I'm gonna lean on this table. I'm gonna get this torch right down where I want it to be, just above my piece of metal. I'm gonna candy the metal. So the metal gets red hot like that. Then you squeeze down and you start cutting. You just start pulling. And it's the same thing as when you were using the plasma. You just want a nice, easy pull, and it will cut right through. Basically what this is actually doing is rusting. You are really quickly rusting that metal, and that's what makes the cut. When you're done, oxygen first. So you back to acetylene, and then shut your acetylene off. Okay? Once both of those are off, I'm gonna go back over to my torch, and I'm gonna shut everything off. So I'm gonna, what am I doing? Shutting off this, shut off that valve, and then we'll bleed it out. So I'm gonna open acetylene. And this, if I'm gonna let it all the way out, and this regulator should go back to 0. And then I'll close this again. Then I'm gonna go over to oxygen. I'm gonna shut the valve off. And then again, I'm gonna let the regulator all the way out. And then I'm gonna bleed all the air that's in the line by this last one. And if you watch, this should now be at 0 instead of that 2 bar. And then I'm gonna close this. And the last thing I'm gonna do is close this valve that I opened on oxygen as well. So that the next person that comes up here has to redo everything, okay? If when you started this torch, you didn't have a really nice flame and some of these seem plugged, there is these tiny little files. And you might have to use these little files. You shove them into those holes. You might have to use these little files in those holes to clean it out. If you're not sure about that part, come get me. But so far this torch seems to be set right and is ready to rumble. When you're torch cutting, again, because this is a really bright light, you can also wear these goggles, okay? You could also wear these if you wanted to for the plasma as well. And that's it. That's all. Have fun.